Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Life Matters TV. I'm Tommy Stoffel. This week I'm coming to you from Bishop, California, which is in the eastern Sierras, kind of a little bit due east of Yosemite, so in that general part of the world. And today we're going to talk a little bit about anger. So I'll let David, my partner in crime here at Life Matters TV, David McLeod, introduce yourself and say hi to the crowd and let us know what we're going to be getting into today.
Okay. Well, hey, good morning, Tommy. And wow, I'd love to be in the Sierras right now. I can imagine that it's just exquisitely beautiful there, and just get a chance to maybe disconnect from all the craziness that goes on in the city, and have an opportunity to connect with who you really are while being surrounded by amazing, beautiful natural structures that just seem to capture a lot of beautiful, nurturing, loving energy. Is that kind of what you're going through right now? Or is that just my imagination?
No, we were up at 5 this morning before sunrise and drove up into the mountains and watched the sunrise on the peaks and saw the trees changing colors, and just a gorgeous morning. So yeah, really embodies that sense of that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's great.
We talk about all the time.
Yeah, there's something magical about going out into nature, and I haven't been giving myself that experience very much in the last little while. I think that's something that I would really like to do again, maybe go backpacking or something. But meanwhile, here we are on another episode of Life Matters TV, and today the topic is what we're calling constructive anger. And I know that for a lot of people, that combination of words may seem a little bit contradictory, because I think in general people have a view of anger that it's a very destructive force, that it creates conflict, that it makes life bad for people, and so on. and I think I would like to just talk a little bit about that and bring up a little bit more, and maybe take a look at anger from some different perspectives, and see if there really is anything good about it. That's kind of where I was coming from when I initially thought of this idea. Especially given that a lot of my life I have felt a lot of anger over the years. And I'm not telling you that it's completely gone away, but it doesn't happen as much as it used to. And when it does happen, I am better able to deal with it than I used to be. So I think it's an interesting and valuable topic to discuss, and I'd like to demystify it and maybe make it a little bit less user-unfriendly.
I love it, man. Yeah, let's do it. Let's just dive into it, because it is a tender subject, and it's one that, people are ashamed of sometimes, or you feel guilty about. And so let's talk about what anger is first, and kind of where it comes from. One thing I want to, some people say things like, and you'll hear me say this over and over again, that, oh, that's just human nature, to be angry. And it's a topic for another discussion. Maybe we'll talk about human nature someday. But our human nature is actually to be calm and peaceful and present. And it's a lot of stuff that goes on in our heads and our emotions that are kind of out of whack. And we talked about this last week, right? That is kind of insanity and a little crazy. But until we learn to cope with all that and come back to our human nature, we're going to have to deal with these emotions. We're going to have to deal with the emotions that get stuffed inside of us. And it's not healthy to keep stuff stuffed in. It's also not very nice to walk out in the street and start screaming at somebody, or just raging at somebody. So we just need to talk about this. And David, it's a brave subject you brought up. And when you said it, I'm like, all right, man, I'm in. We're going for it. So what is anger to you, and where how does it? What do you think it comes from?
Well, first off, I think anger is just a form of emotional energy that shows up in our bodies, and it usually shows up in certain contexts. For me, the way I interpret anger is I tend to feel angry when, well, first off, when I'm not getting what I want. So there's a sense of frustration behind it, like I'm trying to achieve something, I'm trying to do something, and when that's not happening, that's when anger can show up for me. That's one way. And usually there's a big story going on in my head about that. Oh, I'm never going to get what I want, blah, 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 blah. In that case, I don't think it is particularly useful. I think it can be actually self-destructive. I think it can certainly be destructive to people around me. And in that case, it probably is something that I want to learn to channel and deal with and feel on my own without necessarily involving anybody else in that process. So that's one form. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right on. And as you were talking about that, the term reactive anger kind of came up. The stuff that bubbles up inside ourselves because we got stuff going on we haven't quite dealt with, or we're attached to an outcome, or we have a lot of expectations around a situation, they don't pan out. So or we feel somebody hurt us or hurt our feelings. So all that is stuff that's inner work, and we talk about inner work all the time.
Right.
So let's label that the reactive anger.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like we want to talk about actually an intent, almost an anger with intention. Is that kind of like where we want to go in that direction of almost in responding with anger, like thinking it through and using that energy to pause?
Yeah, that's a great question. The idea of reactive anger, that's a good terminology. I like that phrase actually, because I think it does describe what we tend to see in the world. When we see incidences or occurrences or happenings or whatever, when someone seems to be angry, it often appears to have that characteristic of being reactive. So, and in that case, it usually can be destructive as well. Well, not always. I won't say usually, but it can be. But what I have learned is when I'm feeling anger, one of the best things that I can do first is to feel it, just to allow myself to feel it. Because if I don't feel it, then what happens is it's going to end up getting stuffed, and then it's going to come out sideways in a rather negative and volatile explosion that could really hurt somebody. So the first thing is to feel it. The second thing is, depending on the context in which I'm feeling that anger, is to express it, or at least to say the words that say, I am feeling angry, and let someone else know that's what I'm feeling right now. And not to make it wrong or to try and shut it down or anything like that, just to say, I'm feeling angry, and have the other person hear that. And that doesn't mean I necessarily have to do anything with it, and certainly the other person doesn't have to do anything with it. It's just a case of being able to share and say, this is what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, and Eric wrote a note here about how about constructive anger being solution driven, and I think, Eric, you're right on track of where we're going with this, right? That we're looking to use, maybe anger is a solution to a situation, or we use it in a way that is an outcome. And David, when you said, I'll think of what you said because it's sunk in, and then I went off track on talking about Eric there, but that bubbling up inside of us and shooting out, if we don't deal with it. A question though is it always important to share it with the other person? So let's say we're in a situation, we're feeling anger because we interpret a situation a certain way. We expect a certain outcome, or we had anticipated or had an attachment to the way something was going to work out. Let's look into the value of I get getting it out, right? Like some people go scream into a pillow, get it out, go hit a wall, go do something, but to share it with the other person that you feel has caused this sensation inside. How do you feel that helps? Like because it seems like that's something that you feel is a good part of the solution. Where do you think that kind of helps heal or solve or rectify what seems to be going wrong?
Well, for me, I think the first thing is that it depends on who I'm talking to. Because I know if I were having a conversation with you and I said, Tommy, I'm really fucking pissed off right now, you'd be just sitting there saying, oh, cool, tell me about that. And you'd be asking me, you'd be encouraging me to share what it is that I'm upset about. Yeah. And that would probably diminish the anger instantly. On the other hand, if, as what seems to be the case in many cases, well, how dare you get angry at me? I'm your mother, or whatever, people react when other people are angry. So we get this cycle going on. And what I'm proposing is, all I want is to be heard. I'm feeling angry right now. And there's two reasons for this. One is I want to be really clear that this is what's going on for me. And so I don't want you or whoever I'm in relationship with to be having to guess, hey, are you angry right now? you know, because your behavior seems to indicate you are. I'd rather just say it, get it up front. I'm really feeling angry at this moment, and you know, I'm making up this story about X, Y, and Z, and I'm putting judgment on you, and this is what's happening for me right now. And I just want you to hear it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do anything about it. That's all. And I think that that can have a huge benefit to the relationship, actually, because it helps to create a sense of trust between two people. And if I know that it's safe for me to express myself in that way with my partner, and my partner also feels the same way, I think what happens is we eliminate aggression from the equation. It just becomes a case of feeling the anger, getting it out, expressing it, and then saying, okay, so what can we do about this? And then we start looking at the solution.
Yeah, so the whole key to that whole discussion, and everything you said, I think is right on. The whole key to that is understanding the relationship you're in and knowing how honest you can be, almost.
Yeah.
Because some people aren't ready for that honesty. Some people aren't ready for, you know, themselves. They're all kind of bent up or stuffed, you know, and they're kind of blocked. And so to kind of open up that open expression of emotion, the F word, feeling.
Yeah, feeling. Yeah.
So some people that's very threatening, and it's gonna escalate the problem instead of calming the problem. But I like the way you just laid it out there and said, you know what, I'm feeling something right now. I'm feeling anger. This is why. This is what I'm interpreting. This is what think I'm judging. You called it out. You took responsibility yourself in that whole situation, and that's where the brilliance is. Mm-hmm. That's where the solution is.
Yeah, I think that's a real important piece to be able to take it as this is the story I'm making up, rather than just saying you caused me to feel angry. It's your fault. I mean, how often I have done that in the past. I know I used to do that before I woke up and realized how much damage I was creating. And people have done it to me too. Nowadays, when they do it to me, I understand what's really going on, and I just try really hard to stay grounded and centered, because I know that no matter what is going on, it really isn't my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, and that point of taking it out on somebody else, right? Of not taking it on somebody else, which you explained beautifully. I was watching a little TV last night because we're in a place that has TV, and on the Colbert Report, they had a show. They showed little kids, and these two little kids, maybe 4 years old, are arguing about whether it's raining or not. And the girl gets mad at him after a while, and she pokes him. And the little boy goes, "You poked my heart." You poked my heart. and I was like, yeah, you got to be careful who you're poking.
That's right.
You know, and so just taking it in, and that's the mature, responsible, solution-based way to do it, right? Look, here's where I'm stuck. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm having. I just need to get it out a little bit so I don't bottle it up, stuff it in, and explode someday next year, or so I don't keep making myself sick, or so I don't stress myself out. You know, so the whole core of this is it's okay to have emotion. It's okay to have great emotion. It's okay to have sad emotion. It's okay to have angry emotion, if that's, you know, where we are in processing stuff. But be careful who you're taking it out on, right?
Yeah, and well, that whole phrase "take it out on" suggests that I'm trying to hold someone else responsible.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm trying to get even. You know, that's one thing. I've heard that phrase, "Don't get mad, get even." I think, geez, that is really a dangerous statement. You know, and so many people buy into it. I'd say, get mad, and own it, and understand that that's just about you.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of getting even goes away because you realize, wow, it wasn't really that other person's fault anyway. Maybe I can actually have a conversation with that person and find a different way of relating. I don't know. Getting even doesn't seem like the right action to me. That just creates more violence and distrust and everything else that's going on in the world.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the term that popped in was "get mad and get over it."
Yeah, exactly. I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, have it, get it out. If you can do it by yourself, great. If you need to, you know, share it with the other person, do it with, you know, taking responsibility, and then let it go. And that's true. That's true with any emotion.
Yep.
That's true with any emotion that's kind of going to eat at you, or make you sick, or make you stressed, or you know, or I'll say the N word, the negative emotion. It's you go through it, experience it, and then get over it. And
Right.
it's the mistake we make because, again, I was never taught how to deal with my emotions, right? I just wasn't taught. I had to pick it up on the way. I had a friend when I was 13 years old, and this guy never got angry.
Mm.
He just kept us cool through everything. And around us, you know, the kids in the neighborhood, we'd fight about stuff. We'd get angry. We'd see our parents get angry. We'd see the people on TV get angry. Anger seemed like it was human nature.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it was the way things were supposed to be. And this kid just flew Joe. Joe just flew steady and even all the time, kept a nice smile on his face. I'm like, and I just decided one day, I said, I want to be like Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, at that age of, I don't know, 12 or 13, I just decided. And I really never bought into that anger game. I do get angry, right? You know, somebody pulls out in front of you and you go, oh, yes, and you do that. But it's definitely not a lifestyle, and it's not something that I had to keep stuffed. But many people do, right? Have to keep it stuffed, and yeah, you're taking a look.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get to that.
So yeah, so the whole thing, just experience it, let it go, and you know that sometimes it's easy to say, right? But in the heat of the moment, that's when we have to watch ourselves too, because some of what you're talking about is, you know, the responding and thinking it through and then doing it. Maybe before the show is up, we need to talk about a little bit about that reactive anger too. But
Yeah, sure.
I like where this went, David. I'm loving that. You know, I was nervous coming into this. I thought we were going to really disagree on this whole anger thing.
Yeah.
But I'm liking where this has gone. And
Right.
it feels clean.
Yeah. Well, I actually would like to address Eric's question. And by the way, I have to say, this is Eric, a friend of mine. He's a member of my men's group, so it's really awesome that he's on this show. And so he's asking, and I can't see the whole chat, unfortunately, but he's saying, in your opinion, is it necessary to say to the person that you're in relationship with that the anger is not about them per se, so there is a greater, I can't catch that last line.
Here, I've got it. I moved up the field a little bit. Is it necessary to say to the person that you're in a relationship with that the anger is not about them per se? So there is a greater awareness that you simply need to explain how you feel. Yeah, Eric, and I think that's what David was talking about, right? That I think it is important to say it's not about, well, that term's getting overused, right? It's not about you. But that's the important thing to do, and we keep doing this with the fingers, right? It's not about you. Don't point fingers. Take responsibility, and so there is a greater awareness that you simply need to explain how you feel. David,
I think that's actually pretty well written. I like what Eric is saying, and I agree with him, and my answer would be yes. I think that's my opinion. There's a way in which we have to recognize that we are in relationship. So even though what's going on for me is all about me, in a sense, it's about you too, because we are in relationship. So if I do get angry, or if I feel joy or sadness or any other emotion for that matter, it may be partly due to the way in which you and I have been relating. And that's cool. So I don't mind giving you credit for helping me to feel a certain way, even if it means helping me to feel anger, because maybe that's what I needed in that moment, was to get clarity and maybe clear something out of my body or something. And so having you in my life to be able to provide that for me was a great gift. And so who knows, maybe it makes it easier for me to relate to somebody else outside of that relationship because of the fact that I'm able to do that with you. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Well, I think it's an amazing thought, and there's a lot of depth in what you just said too, because I think we do have relationships, and I think we need relationships where we have openly asked in advance for that person to kind of call us on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have some ingrained, embedded behaviors from a lifetime of doing silly things that I don't even know I do. And if you openly ask the other person, now this is a hard game to play, right? Because that person can come in and say, you're behaving this way, or you're doing that again, and you've got to not snap back and fire back and defensive and claw, but you've got to say, oh, you know what, I asked for this, and now I need to, and it hurts. And if it hurts, then it's something I need to deal with.
Yeah.
So getting into that level of relationship is, in some they say it's a blessing, right? That's everybody's your teacher, and to have somebody who can point out where you're still stuck, where you're still suffering, where you're still having these negative things churning inside, or these negative behaviors that are going to cause you pain and suffering.
Right.
Have somebody be able to call you on that. It's a tightrope, right? To have that openness and also keep that friendship or that relationship intact.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to talk about in itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big part of the reason that I sit in circle with a bunch of men. I get a chance for those men to see me in ways that I don't see myself, and to reflect that back to me. And that includes some of the stuff that I don't necessarily want to look at.
Right.
You know, and maybe in particular the stuff that I don't want to look at. That's the real beauty of it. And my hope is that I can find a primary relationship with a woman where I have that same depth, that same implied permission, you know, with a woman who can see me, reflect me, but without judgment and with just a huge amount of compassion. That's really what I'm looking for in my life, and that's what I hope to bring to other people in my life. And I don't do it perfectly. What my idea of compassion may be your idea of pain. I don't know.
No, none of us do it perfectly until we do. But yeah, there's always room for improvement. And you're getting, you know, talking about this relationship and maybe this one-on-one relationship, you know, between two individuals. Actually, that's the hardest place to do this. What I'm going to talk about, but we joke about this term like no strings attached.
Yeah.
Relationship. And there's a very superficial way of thinking about that terminology of, oh, I'm just going to have a fling with this person and then, you know, love them and leave them and run away. But there's a deeper meaning to that term, which you're talking about here. And it's to really get into a relationship where you're not setting hooks, you're not setting judgments, you're not setting traps, you're not making it all gooped up. You know, relationships so quickly get cooped up, right?
Yeah.
Because we're throwing in our expectations and our beliefs and our ideas and judgments and all that stuff, and it just honks up the works. And if getting into a relationship where you ask the other person to call you on your hooks, to call you on the ties that bind, like you said, it's a tough one to do, but in order to have a really clean, beautiful, open relationship, you need to have that honesty and be able to take the hurt. If it feels like somebody calls you on something, you're like, ow, you poked me in my heart.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you know, we put the title Constructive Anger onto this episode. And so I'd actually like to start moving in that direction here because we've only got about a few minutes left. You asked me the different types of anger, different types of situations in which I feel it. There's another way that anger, I think, shows up, not just for me, but for a lot of people, and that's when we see injustice in the world, when we see something that just doesn't seem right, and we have this deep heart kind of reaction that says, I got to do something to change that because it's not right. And we feel anger. It's the same energy, I believe, that we feel in other circumstances. The reactive anger, I think it's the same energy. It's just showing up in a different way. And when that happens, I feel anyway personally that it motivates me. It gets me, you know, really heated up, passion, and excited about doing something. And it may not seem the same to other people. I may not be like in someone's face, or I may not be coming out with what may have appeared before to be like rage or any of that stuff. I'm coming instead with a different kind of action, or a different kind of energy. It's more like intensity or passion or whatever you want to call it. And that kind of energy, I think, is strongly motivating, and it can help us move ourselves into our purpose. It can help us move. It can help us move the whole world, as a matter of fact. It's that energy that is what creates all kinds of new stuff in the world.
Yeah, you're right on, and everything you said resonated very nicely, and my mind was going like this. I'm like, okay, so the word anger itself kind of has a negative connotation, and that's when we take it out on somebody else. That's when we hurt somebody with it, or we throw it, fly off the handle, or we're throwing out negative just energy, as we said, into the universe. But it's the same, you're right, the same kind of core basic inner energy that comes out, and maybe, I love the word intensity, because intensity doesn't have a charge to it. It's just like, I've got to, we've got to do something about this. We've got to take this situation and do everything we can to shift it, to make it better, to help these people that are being whatever, and throw all your intensity into it. And the passion is like, man, that just like, it's a notch above even intensity, right? Intensity to me is like, I'm in there, I'm doing stuff, I've got to go, and make this change, and then the passion, it just brings your heart into it, and your compassion into it, where the word isn't that word. I love those distinctions, David, because that's really bringing constructive, that's doing something.
Yeah.
Instead of just complaining about something or venting or spilling. Right? We're not polluting anymore. We're processing, and we're perfecting. We're doing better.
Right. Yeah. And I think that there's a real benefit and value to that kind of energy. I mean, if we didn't have it, what kind of world would we be living in? I mean, think about someone like I don't know, Mahatma Gandhi, for example. That guy seemed like a very calm and relaxed, centered and grounded man most of the time. But God damn it, he got angry. He got angry, and he got intense, and he got passionate, and he said, this has got to change. Yeah. He also recognized that if I want to see a change in the world, I have to be that change myself. And I really admire that man and what he stood for, and the way he was able to just stand firm, no matter what was going on around him. That really was the most inspiring thing about him, as far as I'm concerned.
And to that end too, and it was kind of woven into the write-up of the invitation for this course was that society does kind of takes its anger out into war and into oppressing people, into damaging. And again, that's the same thing. Take it on the personal level. We need to change ourselves.
That's right.
We're not going to change everybody by talking about it. We need to change ourselves, and everybody else needs to agree that this negative, I'll just call it negative behavior, is damaging to ourselves. And that's what people are going to change when they realize it's hurting themselves. That's when they'll change. So, so I love the talk, man. We're right on the mark here. Intensity, passion, and if it's anger at a situation to just get things fired up and going, that's what needs to be done.
Right. And so let's kind of itemize what we talked about here. So the first thing, as always, feel it.
Feel it.
Feel it. No matter what's going on in your life, feel it.
Don't stuff it.
Right. And don't judge it as you're feeling it. Just allow it to be. That's very, very important. You've got to say, it's okay. Whatever I'm feeling right now is okay. I guess that's a judgment too. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, so that's kind of like the steps we're giving to people, right? If it's drumming up inside, let it come up. Don't be damaging, don't be hurting people, don't be taking it out on others.
Right.
Take responsibility for it, feel it, and then the third step in there is...
Well, hang on, we didn't talk about the second step, to be clear.
Go ahead.
First step is to feel it. The second step, in my mind, is to express it. Now, express doesn't mean you have to share it with somebody else. It just means getting it out, allowing it to flow through and out in a non-destructive way. That's really what I mean by expressing. That may include communicating with somebody. It may include going off and screaming into a pillow. It may include taking an axe handle and beating it against a tree. It may mean anything that allows that energy to flow through the body. That's the key.
All right, take it out on a dead tree. So yeah, no, that's where I was going with it. I thought step number 2 was to feel it,
Feel
but
it.
not judge it,
Yeah. Well, feel it,
and
express it, forgive it,
forgive it.
and then step number 4: decide what you want to do about it.
Yeah.
And I think that applies whether this is a situational anger where I'm upset with something that somebody else has done, or whether it is one of these big things out in the world that I'm seeing as an injustice. Either way, I need to decide what I'm going to do about it. What's my inspiration? What is my passion calling me to do right now?
Beautiful, David. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about next week.
Yeah.
Let's talk about root cause analysis next week.
Did you say root canal analysis?
Yeah, we're gonna have root canals for free. It'll be like that. It actually will be like that. You poked me in my heart.
Sorry. I love your heart, Tommy.
You know, because anger is a symptom too, right? And a lot of these emotions are symptoms. But what are they symptoms of? Mm-hmm. So let's dig in a little deep next week and start talking about the concept of root causes. What's the cause of some of this negative emotion, and how do we kind of analyze it? We'll just talk about the process and some steps we can go through to help people start to root cause analyze their own maybe behaviors that they don't like anymore.
Root cause analysis. All right. Getting to the root.
Getting to the root of the problem.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and Eric, I want to thank you for your comments. I really appreciate your writing on that chat thing for us to help us move this along. Goodbye everybody, and goodbye Tommy.
See you guys. Bye all.